If you clicked on this video, you and I both know why you're here. You're here because you're trying to make 2026 the last year that weed is running the show in your life. So by the end of this video, I'm going to give you a 10-step roadmap on how you're going to go from not being able to relax or eat or sleep without it to actually choose when you use and not use and still feel okay. Because the goal isn't never touch weed again for everybody. It might be for you, but maybe not for everybody. The goal that I advocate for is agency, which is what addiction steals from you. So whether your goal is to quit completely or to just simply change the way or moderate the way that you use, this video is going to help you. And my goal is to give you all of these 10 steps in under 25 minutes because I value your time. So let's get into it. But before we get into the steps, let me introduce myself. My name is Desmond. I'm 27 and I dealt with weed addiction for almost 10 years of my life, starting all the way back in high school. If you want to learn more about it, it's the first video I made on my channel about my whole story. But anyways, it was a long time. And I've gone from smoking 4 to 5 times a day, basically from sunup till sundown, to now controlling my use to only twice a week. And so that way I can start to use the actual benefits of weed. And I now describe weed as a tool and not a crutch. But before, it was my emotional off switch, my boredom killer, my reward, and honestly part of my identity. It was ultimately my way of making life feel manageable, and I know that's for a lot of you the way that you use it as well. And honestly, I get it. I get what it's like to tell yourself you're going to take a break or you're going to quit indefinitely just to end up on the next day feeling like you're spiraling again, using in the same habits that you were before. I get it. And now I am passionate about helping other people get unstuck from these loops of addiction without shame, without fear, and without turning this into a moral thing. Because at the end of the day, I want you to be able to have agency to choose what you ingest and help you gain back the trust in yourself and honestly give you back your choice, because discernment is one of the main things we have in this life and one of the main things that addiction takes from you. So on that note, if you want to go deeper than just this video, I'm starting an online coaching cohort called Clarity Academy. It's essentially a month-long program built to help you break the compulsive cycles and rebuild that trust back into yourself. It supports different paths, like I said before, whether you want to quit entirely, you want to take a reset, or you want to learn how to use consciously like I have personally. It gives you the information, the tools, that some of which we'll go over in this video, and the community that you need to not do this alone and finally make this a time that you make a successful change in your life. So if you're curious and you'd like to learn more, go into the description. You'll find a link. You could read through the landing page and you could sign up for the wait list. The first cohort will be starting very soon, so definitely check it out. Otherwise, let's get back in the video. All right, step number 1, become aware of your current lifestyle. Quick note before we go on, these first 5 steps can be done while you're still smoking. We're here to play the long game, so take your time. Don't shame yourself while you prepare for all this. So again, step 1 is self-awareness. Because how are you going to know how to change if you don't even know what to change? So first thing I'm going to have you do is get a piece of paper or open a document on your notes app on your phone or whatever. And I want you to write down these 3 things. First and foremost, what triggers you to smoke? Whether it's time of the day, whether it's emotions, whether it's boredom, whether it's stress, after work, before meals, before sleep. What are the triggers in your day that you usually go, okay, after this, I'm going to smoke? Secondly, I want you to write down what emotions show up around this habit. Whether it's shame, anxiety, numbness, even excitement. Maybe there's some good emotions too. I want you to illuminate for yourself, what are the emotions that I have around this habit in general? And then thirdly, I like you to write down what are the beliefs that are tied to this habit. So to put it simply, what do you believe weed is doing for you? So whether that's it helps me relax, or it makes things more fun, it helps me sleep, it's my creativity tool, it makes me feel normal, whatever those things are, I want you to get very clear on those. Take as much time as you need throughout this process. You do not need to rush it. This part is very, very, very important. And this is ultimately how you expose the addiction, which is your behavior on autopilot. Because self-awareness is always the first step to long-term change. Why? Because how are you going to change if you're not even clear on what your current pattern is? And I'd say do this for at least a week. You don't need to rush it. If you want a system for tracking and reflecting, I've linked my free Notion template Clarity OS in the description, which I'll be mentioning a little bit more throughout this video, but it's a very helpful tool on this entire process in general, and it's completely free. Alrighty, step number 2, get clear on your why. This is one of the most important steps because your why is what you're going to lean on when your brain starts negotiating. And you already know just as much as I do, if not more, that the weed negotiations are sneaky because it's not always, I need it. It's more like, it's been a long day, or maybe we should just start tomorrow. I could really use a smoke, or life's a little stressful right now. I'll just smoke a little bit, or I'll just maybe smoke at night and not throughout the entire day. Or maybe even it's like life is just more fun when I'm high, or life is difficult right now and I deserve to have something. People drink all the time. Why can't I just smoke? It's very, very sneaky in the way that it rationalizes your behavior. So if you've created a why before and it just didn't hold up, or you'd like just some help with creating your why, I've actually created a small little formula that you can use. And it goes like this. I'm choosing to change my relationship with weed because I value blank. And I'm done trading that for blank. I am determined to become blank so I can blank. And I am dedicating this journey to blank. And then I want you to take your why statement, whether it's this formula or not, and I want you to expand that into a letter or a voice memo to yourself. This becomes your anchor when your cravings hit hard, when you feel bored, when you're not sleeping great, when you have the cold sweats, and you start romanticizing what it was like when you used to do this thing high. But the even better thing it becomes is proof to you in the future, after you've gone through all of this, that you actually did what you said you were going to do. It's the best feeling in the world. All right, moving on to step number 3, learn nervous system regulation tools. This to me is one of the most slept on parts of breaking any compulsive habit or addiction, period. Because I would argue that most people aren't addicted to weed necessarily. They're addicted to the feeling of relief that it gives them, which means you don't just remove the coping tool, you replace it with real regulation. And that's where the long-term change happens. I need you to learn 2 things. Meditation for your mind and attention, and breath work for your body and emotions. If I could recommend one meditation to you that's helped me the most, it's a sensing space meditation. When you're anxious, restless, or really going through the worst of the cravings, if you can open your attention to the sensations and space around your body, around the room, it interrupts the loop. And then with breath work, it can give you a clean shift of state of mind and body without the come down or the dependence. And I always like to tell beginners, especially around breath work, if you've never tried it before, to just start simple and start easy. Do something 5 minutes, do something that's going to calm your nervous system down. We don't need to do the fast breathing that's just going to really arouse your body, and sometimes some people aren't ready for the kind of lightheadedness or the feeling the vibrations in their hands and things of that nature. Not that those are bad things, but sometimes they can be a little bit too overwhelming for beginners. So start simply and you can move forward from there, and ultimately just be wise with both meditation and breath work, and just treat your body as sacred. Don't punish it, love it, and it will love you back. But one more thing I'd say about breath work, well, at least I've learned in my journey, is that for a lot of time I used weed to avoid the feelings I hadn't really processed yet. And so through breathwork and meditation, to be able to sit with the uncomfortable feelings in my body and let it move through me, it changed everything. So definitely learn how to do those, and even further than just this quit kind of time in your life, they will become lifelong tools that you can use to regulate yourself and your emotions, so that way life doesn't become overwhelming with or without weed. All right, step number 4, learn how weed addiction works. I'm going to keep this section as short as I can because it is a big topic, but you need to understand the loop of addiction. This is what it looks like. You get triggered either by boredom or stress or your environment in general, and then that leads to a thought which says, I need to take a hit, or I'll feel better if I smoke. And then that leads to the behavior, which is however you consume edibles or pack in a bowl or roll in a J or whatever it is. And then that then gives you the reward of the relief, the numbness, the comfort, enhanced stimulation, whatever it is. And so the goal is that you don't fight weed, but you interrupt the loop early, because change isn't about stopping yourself getting triggered, but changing the behavior that you do once you become triggered. Not to mention your endocannabinoid system has basically been hijacked by your addictive behavior, where your body is now creating a lot more receptor sites. This is a little bit of the science before it, but your brain has basically stopped creating dopamine and then relying on this behavior to give you the dopamine, which is why you feel so lethargic and restless and just feel bored after you quit, because your brain needs to come back to equilibrium and be able to create its own dopamine, and that takes time. The big change is that once you get triggered, you're able to pause and you're able to ask why, and then you replace the dopamine and you recommit to the why, like we mentioned in step 1. So when the thought hits and your body is begging you to smoke, you have to be able to have a strong mind and be able to say, no, I'm not going to smoke because I'm craving relief, but I'm choosing clarity because whatever your why is. And then you replace the dopamine / relief for your body with something cleaner, like a walk, cold shower, doing breathwork exercises, listening to music, working out. There are plenty of things you can do, or things that can start to develop natural serotonin and dopamine in your life, so you don't have to rely on a substance for it. And also what I'll say about just understanding addiction in general is learn what withdrawal symptoms look like. So that way when you're irritable, have cold sweats, you get the smoker's flu and you're coughing and have headaches. So that way you don't think of yourself as a special case, but you understand that this is just part of the process and you don't need to freak out, and that it is temporary and you're not going to suffer forever, because the mind likes to play those games, especially when it's suffering. And lastly, I'll just say, because everybody is different and everybody has been using for different amounts of times and different quantities at that amount of time, if things get too intense or you start to question that something is going wrong, you don't have to play it tough. And I always recommend you be more safe than sorry and get professional help should you feel like you need it. Alrighty, step number 5, get your support system together. And this section is made up of 3 things. 1, pick people you can actually depend on, not just internet strangers. I know those can help, being on apps and stuff like that, but it's not the same as having somebody in your corner that you know is going to pick up the phone at 2 a.m. when you call them. That's priceless. If the people in your closest circle smoke daily or smoke at the same range you do, find at least one person who doesn't. Secondly, I recommend that you tell the people around you, whether they're your family or your partner that you live with or the people at work, what you're doing and why. I know that it can be scary to share with other people what your addiction is, but I promise you 90% of people aren't going to shame you or make you feel embarrassed for it. They're actually going to applaud you and probably give you the benefit of the doubt and actually support you in this. So I know it can be scary, but it's way better than you being irritable and tired as you go through the process and you don't think that anybody understands that, and so you get into some arguments and screaming matches. You don't need to make this harder than it has to be. Just look out for yourself and those around you by letting them know that the next 3 to 5 days you're probably going to be a little bit under the weather. So just a little pro tip. And thirdly, protect your environment. If you always smoke while you game or you always smoke at night, change the routine or change the ritual. If you always smoke with certain friends, take a break from those hangouts for a little, like a week or something. You don't have to do it forever, just enough to break the association as you are going through the process and your body is begging you to give it the hit that it wants. So those are my best 5 tips on things to do before you quit. Now let's talk about what you're going to do from your quit day moving forward. So step number 6 is have a cravings strategy. And one of the main things around this is cravings mean that you're winning, not that you're failing. Your brain and body will heal itself. And so try to see cravings as you not fighting against the urges in your body, but think of them as cravings are proof that your brain is rewiring. So when you're going through the worst of withdrawals, just know that every time that you feel the urge and don't act upon it, that's a W, huge W to the program. So as much as it can feel like you're fighting the urges and you're fighting your body, think of it that you're working with your body and tell yourself this is only temporary. I am slowly but surely clearing out this addiction. And that's why you sweat and you cough and all that stuff. Your body needs to release all of that so that way you can come back to homeostasis. Secondly, just around this step, learn how to beat the addicted voice. Because like I said before, the addicted voice is very clever and it always makes itself sound like it's self-care. So my strategy is to treat it like it's a little cousin that only wants to eat candy for dinner. You don't shame them about it. You don't fight them about it. You guide them and you say, I get why you want that, but we're not going to do that today. And here's why. And the why is very important because that little kid is going to be asking for candy, not just for dinner, but all day. And you're going to have to say, no, this is why, and move on from there. Allow your better judgment to take place of the cravings voice. And just know that the cravings voice is somewhat of an immature voice and that there is a part of you that is more mature, that is going to settle it down, give it the truth, and just move on from there. And eventually it will go away. And then thirdly is choose a smart quit window. Don't quit the day before a huge exam. Don't quit on vacation. Don't quit right before a high stress week. Pick a window where you can be lower output for a few days if needed. I would recommend quitting on something like a Thursday. So that way, Friday at work or whatever isn't going to be the best, but the worst days are like day 3 through 5, and you can just go through the worst part of it during the weekends. Just my advice, don't have to take it, but that's just what I recommend. And then lastly, around this point, use the regulation tools daily. Don't just do breath work once when you're desperate. Make it part of your strategy and plan and just thing that you do when you're going through the worst of the withdrawals. Pick a meditation and do that for a little bit because cravings come in waves. And so that way you can understand that they're going to come, they're going to peak, and then they're going to drop off. And then you'll be fine for a little bit. And then another one's going to come, it's going to peak, and then it's going to drop off. So when the really big waves come, do a meditation, do a little bit of breath work. Just be able to do something so that way you don't feel like you have to white knuckle it through and just sit there under a bunch of blankets while you're sweating and stuff. It's not very fun. Also, what really helps is walks. Get up and walk. You just sitting there being in your head trying to white knuckle it isn't the best plan. Get up and move. Alrighty. Step number 7. Create your trophy. This might not apply to you, but I don't really know many people that don't keep a stash somewhere, or they have their grinder or their papers or a bong or a pen or edibles somewhere in their house. So instead of going outside and throwing it against the ground in your rage because you're tired of this addiction, make it a trophy instead. You can put everything in a bag, or if you're a bong smoker like I was, you can write something on your bong, clean it. And personally, I wrote no more hiding because this was a very big lesson I learned from my own addiction with weed itself. But write something on it, whether it's old identity or proof or not in control anymore, whatever speaks to you and makes you feel like I am overcoming this aspect of my own personal belief system. For me, I like to smoke because it helped me hide, and that's just what I had to go through. So whatever it is, turn it into a trophy. It becomes really, really cool once you get on the other side of this, that you have a little bit of a memento of this represents me sticking to what I said I wanted to do and making my life better and getting through something that I at one point believed was damn near impossible, and I was able to make it through. It's really good for that. All right, moving on. Step number 8, have a relapse protocol. Now, I don't wish relapse on you whatsoever, but I'm also realistic, and personally, it took me a few tries before I kind of got to the other side, and not everybody just is able to do it first try. So I understand that. So instead of falling into the trap of, oh, I slipped up on my plan, so I might as well just spiral and go right back to my old habits. And I want you to look at this as a more long-term experiment than just, oh, this is my one quit attempt, and then if I fail, this is my next quit attempt. I want you to see it as one big experiment and to see it as feedback. I remember when I was finally getting through the kind of last few experiments, I took a week off and I smoked again, and because ultimately I was just trying to understand how I could smoke less and not kind of depend on it as a daily kind of crutch thing, but actually use it in a way that was helpful for my life, and I can still get the fun aspects, I can get the deeper thinking aspects that I love about it helping me open my mind and be a bit more creative. I love that about smoking, but I don't love when I just basically get numb and just smoke and go to bed just because I feel like I need it. But anyways, it's always good to have a protocol, and I actually created one in my Notion template. So if you don't know what to do as a little protocol, I created a really thorough one that you can use. So I'm going to kind of fly through it. I'll put it on screen, but basically it has 4 steps. Step 1 being describing just simply what happened. And then part 2 is going a bit deeper into kind of what happened, going into the triggers and things of that nature. Part 3 is going a little bit deeper than that and asking yourself what you've learned and things of that nature. And then lastly, part 4 is recommitting to your why and making the decision again to recommit to this experiment. What this is going to do is help you prevent the spiraling from the shame of failure, basically. Again, my Notion template will be linked below, so go ahead and grab that for free. All right, we're almost done. Step 9, invest in yourself. And one of the biggest things you get back when you stop smoking daily, other than the self-respect and the energy and the focus, is time and money. I want you to use that. Use the extra time you have. Use this extra money that you're not spending on re-upping every week. Invest that into yourself, period. Whether you want to start working out more, whether you want to put some more time into some creative projects if you're a creative person, whether you want to start that side hustle that you and your homies have been thinking about, and so you invest in some of the softwares that you need to do that. Simply invest in yourself. This is what stops you from that whole fear that you'll be bored just because you quit your daily habit. Instead, use that energy. Obviously, the first week you're going to be going through withdrawals. You don't have to start this immediately the day after because you got to get through that quit process first. But after that, build a life that feels good, sober. That's the real flex. All right, step number 10, last one. It's a little bit more philosophical and less actionable, but I want you to play the long game. Understand that this addiction that you have has been formed over months or even years of your life, depending on how long you've been using. And so I want you to go into this with an expectation that just because you quit for 7 days doesn't mean life is going to turn into butterflies and rainbows. Because what I've found is life has a funny way of testing you when you're making big changes in your life. Not because life hates you, but because stress is the moment that your true identity reveals itself. And so I don't wish these upon you, but I've seen it happen very often. After people quit, they may have a breakup or a bad week or a family problem or a job issue. And your job in this process after you quit is to build a mind that doesn't run back to substances every time life starts to get a little bit uncomfortable. That is true freedom that you're building for yourself. So I want you to ingrain this in your head. play the long game, play the long game, play the long game. And I promise you, your future self is going to be so proud of you that you were able to walk through the fire and you didn't fold. So that's my speed run of how you're going to change your relationship with weed in 2026. If you watch this whole video and you're like, okay, I get it, but I've tried this before and I always fall back into the same loop, then I want you to go into the description and I want you to read through my website and join the wait list for my next cohort for Clarity Academy. Again, it's 4 weeks to either quit entirely or to change your relationship with the substance, but either way, whatever path you take, you need to get over the addictive habit and allow your body to start to create its own dopamine again, and then you can choose after that how you decide to have weed in your life, period. And ultimately, it's going to give you a better strategy as well as a lot more of the information and science around how addiction works, both mentally and biologically, that I can't fit into this one YouTube video. It's going to give you nervous system tools like the breathwork and meditation that I mentioned before. I'm going to create my own guided breathwork and meditations that helped me the most throughout this process and give them to you. And then it also just gives you structure, accountability, and community, because too many of us try to do this alone or feel alone in our pursuit to freedom, and we could always use some extra help and some extra boost forward from some other people looking to go the same way in life that you are. One of the best things that you can do for yourself is gain your agency and your choice back. So if this video helped you whatsoever, I'd appreciate you giving it a like, so I know that you guys appreciate this content and are looking for more. I'm not even 10 videos into this channel, but this channel will, for the most part, be about how to help you quit addiction and understand it. So if there are specific questions that you'd like me to answer around it, please drop it in the comment section and I will think about creating a video answering those questions. So thank you for joining me and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, love you, bye.